On the Beaver News, a study questions the use of Northwest forests as a biofuel source, a controversial decision in Mississippi, and an update on the recovery from a devastating plane crash. All that and more right here on the Beaver News.
Edition of the Beaver News. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Hayden Wilcox.
And I'm Janessa Kirk. In order to offer students more services and better accessibility, the Mind Spa have moved to a new location. As reported by Katja Kozer of the Daily Barometer, the Mind Spa is now offering meditative and calming services in a quiet, personal room, with counseling and psychological services in Snell Hall, and is set up in the sanctuary from stresses of college life. The coordinations of the Mind Spa have wanted to develop this room for a while now. Michelle Ribeiro, psychologist at CAPS and head coordinator of the Mind Spa, hopes it will eventually extend to other locations, and that one-day meditation and mental relaxation will become a norm for students.
The largest study conducted to study the impacts that would come from using forest on the West Coast as a source for biofuel is showing that using the forest for such a purpose would raise CO2 emissions by a staggering 14%. This study, published on October 23rd in Nature Climate Change by scientists from the College of Forestry at Oregon State University, along with scientists in Germany and France, is supported by the U.S. Department of Energy. Tara Hudiberg, a doctoral candidate at the OSU and lead author of the study, has this to say about the findings. Quote, "The findings contradict general assumptions and trump previous studies which felt that the northwestern forest biofuel would produce zero emissions or even reduce carbon dioxide output. The use of the forest for biofuel is widely considered a renewable, carbon-neutral energy source due to its ability to regrow. Our findings indicate the opposite."
According to estimations by Jack Barth, the Associate Dean of Research at Oregon State University's College of Atmospheric and Oceanic Studies, the debris caused from this year's tsunami in Japan will arrive on the west coast of the United States between the end of 2012 and the fall of 2013. Depending on the location, the amount of debris will vary. Some areas may be less than one might expect, while others could be more surprising. As reported by Michael Mendez of the Daily Barometer, the earthquake and tsunami killed over 15,000 people on the eastern coast of Japan, and large portions of the coastal cities that were directly hit were washed out to sea. This Pacific current is what is causing debris to head towards the North American coast. Barth speculates that the time of year the debris reaches the west coast will have a large impact on where it ends up. If it reaches the coast in the summer, he expects it to arrive in Oregon and California, but that will continue farther north if it arrives during cold winter weather.
The OSU women's soccer team last night made history as they were selected to host the University of Portland Pilots in the first round of NCAA tournament. Though they reached the Sweet 16 2 years ago, the farthest the team has progressed in this tournament. This will be the first time OSU has been able to actually host a first-round game. Katie Carker of the Daily Barometer is reporting that when the Beavers faced off against the Pilots earlier this season, they lost it 2-1 in overtime. Last Friday was senior night for the team, and until the announcement last night, the team's seniors believed it would be the last time they would be able to play on Lorenz Field, and now it looks like they will have at least one more chance.
Our Little Village, one of Oregon State's daycare centers located in the Valley Library, is soon to experience the loss of their supervisor. As reported by Amanda Antell of the Daily Barometer, the Director of Family Resources, Stephanie Duckett, is stepping down from her position as the Our Little Village supervisor to pursue her dream of the medical school. Opened in October 2007, Our Little Village's duty was to meet the increasing needs of student parents. According to Christy King, a staff member in Family Resources and caretaker in Our Little Village, quote, "Students with children at OSU were really struggling with finding time to study in the evening and during weekends, when studying typically happens. They typically had childcare during the day when they were attending class and working, but then didn't have childcare in the evenings and weekends because typical childcare options were not open during the evenings and weekends, end quote. The Associated Students of Oregon State University noticed the issue and created Our Little Village, designed as a drop-off childcare center for the convenience of student parents of OSU. The village is paid for by student fees.
Student Health Services was temporarily closed this morning from 8 to 10 a.m. to allow tours of their new facilities following renovations and areas that would not be available to the public. And Nancy Bauschman of the Daily Barometer reports that a large portion of the Plageman building dated back to the 1930s. The center has now more observation rooms for patients and more confidential spaces for the nursing area, which had previously been less private. The floor's reception area has also been rearranged, is now set apart from the nursing and observation rooms by a door. In addition to creating a more confidential environment, Student Health Services hopes that the renovations will also shorten wait times and make students feel that they can more easily rely on the service. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll have your remaining stories for the evening. Stay tuned.
Pants are long. Do they go on my head? Do they? Do the pants go on my head? No. They go on.
Everyday moments can become teaching moments because learning starts long before school does. Give your child the start they need at bornlearning.org.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bag your lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feedthepig.org.
Hair loss. Now this rash on my face, what's going on?
For answers, ask your doctor the right question.
Could I have lupus?
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad
One more
today.
time. Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor. Because even one attack is one too many.
Horseradish. Is that for horses? Remember me, Mr. Lobster? From last Tuesday?
banana, banana, banana. Here comes the rain. We need a hat. And why do we need a hat?
They dry.
That's right.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
Welcome back to the Beaver News, live on Channel 26. CNN is reporting that an asteroid the size of an aircraft carrier will pass Earth to within 8/10 of the distance of the Moon on tonight. This will be the closest approach to Earth an object has been this size in the past 30 years. NASA expects that the asteroid to be at its closest at the time of 6:28 p.m. Eastern Time. The space agency has classified this asteroid as a potentially hazardous object. Scientists at Purdue University had estimated that if the asteroid were to crash into our planet, it could cause a 4,000 megaton blast and a magnitude 7.0 earthquake. And if the asteroid fell into the ocean, experts predict that it could cause a 70-foot high tsunami with 60 miles of the crash site. According to NASA's Near-Earth Object Program, this rock named asteroid 2005 YU-55 poses no threat of an Earth collision. NASA will be studying the asteroid with the Goldstone radar antennas in California's Mojave Desert.
The long debate over what it means to be a living person with rights is being decided on this week in Mississippi. Mississippi Governor Barber has lent his support to a state constitutional amendment that would define human life. The point at which we are granted humanitarian rights is the moment of conception. This amendment, if approved, would mean that abortions and morning after pills would be under the same qualifications as homicide. As reported by CNN, supporters of the amendment include far-right conservative groups, major religious groups, and pro-life groups who urge mothers to put their baby up for adoption if they can't support the child, rather than aborting it. A major concern brought up from the amendment is that the law would make no exception in the case of rape or incest and would force the mother to carry the unwanted child. Terry Herring, national director for the pro-life movement, said this about the amendment, quote, "If a woman was attacked and her unborn child was killed, it would be fetal homicide. That is considered a person. But on the very same day, in the very same area, a woman could go and have an abortion and kill her child, and nothing would happen. So we have a contradiction, and that is what we're trying to fix here," end quote. With this, support for the amendment has been coming in from many different demographics, and the polls suggest that the measure will pass. Now the major concern is, what effect will this have on women's rights?
Former boxing heavyweight Joe Frazier passed away Monday after just a month of being diagnosed with liver cancer. Best known for being the first to defeat legendary Muhammad Ali, Frazier at 6 feet 7 inches was a legend in his own right and personified the gritty working-class style of his hometown of Philadelphia. Writer Bill Lyon wrote in a Philadelphia Inquirer column about Frazier saying, quote, "You can hear him coming, snorting and grunting and puffing like a steam engine climbing up a steep grate," end quote. CNN reports that Frazier's family issued a brief statement about his death, saying that, quote, "We, the family of Smokin' Joe Frazier, regret to inform you of his passing. He transitioned from his life as one of God's men on the eve of November 7, 2011, at his home in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania."
The state of Oregon has now become the first state in the nation to begin a pilot program that allows certain areas to vote via an application on the iPad. CNN is reporting that the primary reason for the new program is to allow citizens with limited mobility and the elderly greater access to remain part of the process. With this app, the voter would be able to enlarge the text as well as adjust the font and color. In addition, this program would also save the state money because it ends up being less expensive than previous voting methods. This program was first tested today in the special election to replace former U.S. Representative David Wu, who stepped down in August amid a sex scandal. Election officials expected to continue to use this form of this program for general elections, as well as depending on the results from today's trial run.
In our continued coverage of the now infamous Occupy movement, CNN is reporting that some of the movement's recent developments have occurred in such major cities such as Atlanta, Chicago, Fresno, California, Philadelphia, and Tucson, Arizona. In Atlanta, up to 20 protesters have moved to the suburbs, taking up position in a home with a family of 5 facing foreclosure. Protesters plan to canvass the neighborhood with the family to gather support and help occupy other homes facing foreclosure. In Chicago, senior citizens and disabled demonstrators joined the movement in order to protest cuts in safety net programs. In Fresno, California, police arrested at least 22 people during the weekend, and demonstrators agreed to voluntary arrest as a form of protest. They were arrested Sunday and released the same day. In Philadelphia, a couple that met a month ago working at an information booth at Occupy Philadelphia married on Monday and said they will spend their honeymoon visiting other Occupy movements along the East Coast. And in Tucson, Arizona, protesters in the rain and cold solicited material donations online to help winterize their camp. Occupy campers are asking the public on their blog for waterproof camping gear, including tarps, sleeping bags, and tents.
If you have a car here on campus, then you might want to listen up. Over the past month, there have been 18 accounts of cars being keyed by vandals. As of now, there is no pattern to the trend, and both student and staff cars alike are being targeted. However, as reported by the Daily Barometer's Dominic Loberg, police have arrested 19-year-old OSU student Jennifer Zhang after witnesses saw her key 2 different cars in a nearby parking lot. Zhang was arrested on charges of first- and third-degree criminal mischief. However, since the arrest, there has been no change in the amount of vandalism. Oregon State University campus security and the Corvallis Police Department urged students and staff alike to report any suspicious behavior of individuals in parking lots. As of now, they are unsure as to whether or not this is an organized group of vandals or a single individual. And besides from one intentionally personal attack, there seems to be no pattern in these incidents.
CNN is reporting that Antoine Jones, under arrest and accused of drug trafficking, was being watched with a global positioning system without a warrant to track his movements around Washington, D.C. After a month-long operation, Jones was arrested and charged with drug trafficking. The Supreme Court will now decide whether law enforcement should have obtained a warrant before placing the GPS device on Jones's car so they could track him. The justices will hear an oral argument in the appeal from the Obama administration on Tuesday. A federal appeals court have overturned Jones's criminal conviction due to the ruling that the GPS constituted a search and thus deserved protection under the Fourth Amendment. The primary issue in this case is whether the movement of a vehicle on city streets should be considered public.
The television industry lost one of journalism's greats when 60 Minutes' Andy Rooney, one of the show's original and most recognizable characters, passed away. On Friday night, writer and commentator Rooney passed away during complications after a minor surgery. He was 92. As reported by CNN, Rooney got his first job as a writer when he was drafted into the military during World War II. It was there that he reported for the Stars and Stripes newspaper from just behind the front lines. After the war, he spent many years working for several different writing companies and television stations. Soon, Rooney found his way to 60 Minutes, where he joined the team in 1978. His commentaries on fairly mundane topics and his signature curmudgeon status earned him the title of King of Grouch by his peers. During his career, he had earned 6 Writers Guild of America awards, 1 Peabody, and 4 Emmys. Jeff Hager, chairman of CBS News and the executive producer of 60 Minutes, said, quote, "It's a sad day at 60 Minutes and for everyone here at CBS News. It's hard to imagine not having Andy around. He loved life and he lived it on his own terms. We will miss him very much." We are now going to take our final break of the evening, but when we return, we'll have your remaining international stories, including the trial of terror suspect and hope for those stranded near Mount Everest.
When you open a book, you can explore new lands, make new friends, and discover new adventures. There are amazing possibilities when you open your mind to reading. Explore new worlds. Read.
Just put your hands up, TV land. Yo. paradise is lost. I'm paralyzed by the imperative cause. She's sharing a coffin with the gods that I've crossed. And day by day I'm looking for another outlet. I shout, but I've yet to be heard. The fear of flying, broken wings of a bird. The feeling's unnerved, absurd with my word. A pseudo-intellectual that's just dying to serve. A fallen angel, fate filled with flaws and misfortune. Claw marks on the side of the well. The people attempts to be tortured. Swords drawn to the necks of the demons. Another metaphor. Me just trying to protect all my feelings. The criminal dealings led us to the brink that's demonic. Born an angel, but I'm bringing back a plate that's bubonic. A profit like the narcotic product you got up in your pocket with more shock value than an electrical socket. The angel act, I dropped it like the sword of that dude Loki. So while you're on your deathbed, speak those words that you told me. Come on. You told me, you told me, you told me. You told me, you told me, you told me.
Heart disease must for 5,000 miles average.
If you're in danger of losing your home to foreclosure, call today, because nothing is worse than doing nothing.
Have a banana. Eating well and playing go together like best friends.
You better believe it.
With the food pyramid, the bare necessities of living healthy are easy.
Bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
So eat right. Be active.
Now move and sit.
And don't forget to have fun. That's the way to be the best.
You're lots of fun, Baloo.
At anything you do. You can go to mypyramid.gov to play some games and find out more.
Welcome back to the Beaver News on KBVR. After 9 years of detention, a terror suspect will emerge when he is led into a military courtroom at the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. CNN reports that in 2002, Abd al-Rahim al-Nashari was captured and remained virtually invisible since then, after being detained first overseas in secret facilities and then at Guantanamo. The United States claims that he is the brains behind the 2000 bombing in the USS Cole, killing 17 U.S. Navy sailors and wounding dozens more in the harbor of Aden, Yemen. Commander Kirk, the officer in charge of the ship at the time, says the court appearance is long overdue and that, quote, "The crew and families have been patient for 11 years. It is time for justice to be served," unquote. The arraignment will take place Wednesday morning and is expected to last only an hour or so. If found guilty, this potentially could be the first death penalty case in the military commission system.
In the protest of Chinese rule, a Tibetan Buddhist nun has committed suicide by setting herself on fire earlier this week. This has been the 11th incident of its kind in recent history. As reported by CNN, the International Campaign for Tibet claimed that the nun called for freedom and the return from exile of the Dalai Lama as she was burning. The Dalai Lama, spiritual leader of this particular sect of Buddhism, has been in exile from his native land of Tibet since 1959, the exile, of course, enforced by Communist China. Out of the 11 attempted suicides conducted in this manner by Buddhist nuns and priests, 6 have resulted in death. The Chinese government believes that these self-immolations have been instigated by exiled Tibetans in order to bring attention to the occupation. The Tibetan government made a statement explaining that the people of Tibet can no longer deal with the continued oppression from the Chinese authorities, and that they feel that the only thing they can do is protest by suicide. Activist and writer Tsering Woser explained, quote, "If there is no improvement, Tibetans will feel like it's better to die than be alive. They commit suicide to protest. The international community should impose pressure and condemn the Chinese government. But so far, the pressure has not been enough, and the international community only appeals to the Chinese government, but there are no real actions, such as economic boycott."
On Monday, a stampede occurred at a religious festival, killing at least 16 people. CNN reports that the stampede took place at an ashram or religious community in Hadawar, about 100 miles north of New Delhi, India. The Press Trust of India news agency reported that thousands attended the festival, and it took place in order to celebrate the 100th birthday of Ashram's founder, Shiram Sharma. Habir Singh, the subdivisional manistage of the Hadwar, stated that the 16 deaths that occurred were 14 women. They also stated that 32 were left injured. Stampedes at events in India have occurred multiple times due to large crowds gathering in narrow congested areas. In January, a stampede took place near a religious temple, killing 100 people, and in March 2010, more than 60 people were killed in a stampede at a temple in the Uttar Pradesh state.
In 2009, Air France Flight 447 crashed, tragically killing all 228 passengers and crew aboard. Last spring, the wreckage was recovered, and bodies were first able to be brought from to the surface to be identified. CNN is reporting that, as of now, 153 bodies have been identified of the 154 that they have been able to bring to the surface. The unidentified body is currently going DNA tests in France, and 74 bodies still remain in the water. It took 4 searches over the course of nearly 2 years to locate the bulk of the wreckage, primarily due to its location, with the majority of the bodies in a mountain range deep under the ocean. Finally, having their loved ones identified will hopefully bring some sense of closure to the many impacted by this devastating crash.
CNN reports that the efforts are now underway to rescue hundreds of trekkers that have been stranded for 6 days in a town near Mount Everest due to bad weather. Efforts to rescue them have been growing more realistic as the weather conditions improved, and by Monday, the process of transporting the tourists to the nation's capital was fully underway, according to the tourism ministry. Hari Baisyal, spokesman of the Nepal Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation, said the goal was to be able to transport 1,500 tourists to Kathmandu by today. More than 2,200 tourists had been stranded in the village with limited food supplies since last week. Stranded tourists took 48 flights and helicopter rides out of the village of Lukla on Monday, and the day before, at least 500 were flown to the capital. That's all the news we have for you tonight, but be sure to turn in tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock for more of your local, national, and international news right here on KBVR.